My stepmom falsely accused me and kicked me out at 15. 16 years later, my dad asked me to gift my house to my sister, so I revealed she wasn't his daughter, and everything went to hell. I'm 31 years old, work in real estate development, and I need to get this story off my chest because what happened basically destroyed my entire family. And the truth is, I don't know if I did the right thing or if I should have taken the secret to my grave. I guess I should start at the beginning, when I was like 4 years old and my mom died of cancer. I don't remember much about her, honestly, just blurry images and the feeling of her hand on my head. But what I do remember perfectly is the emptiness she left behind and how my dad, Edward, became someone completely different after that. My father was like 42 when mom died, and he spent 3 years basically being a robot, you know? He'd work all day, come home, give me some frozen dinner, and fall asleep in front of the TV. I was a kid. I didn't understand much, but I knew something was wrong. Then when I was 7, my dad met Brenda somewhere, I think at work or something, and suddenly everything changed. At first, Brenda seemed great, like the typical woman who tries too hard with her new husband's son. She'd buy me stuff, make me cookies, ask about school, and I thought, well, maybe this isn't so bad. Maybe we can be a normal family again. They got married when I was 7, and for a while things were good, or at least that's what I thought. Brenda was nice to me, my dad seemed happier, the house felt less empty. But then, when I was like 8.5, Brenda got pregnant with Michelle, and that's when everything started to change. Though at the time I didn't see it so clearly. Michelle was born and she was, a normal baby, cried all the time, needed constant attention, and suddenly I went from being the center of Brenda's universe to being practically invisible. Don't get me wrong, I loved my little sister. She was cute and small, but the difference in how they treated me versus how they treated her was like night and day. As Michelle grew up, the favoritism became more and more obvious. If Michelle wanted something, she got it. If I asked for something, my dad would say we didn't have money, or that I didn't deserve it, or whatever. Michelle had dance classes, piano, whatever she wanted. I played basketball at school and had to use old hand-me-down sneakers from a cousin because apparently there was no budget to buy me new ones. My dad got stricter with me too. Like anything I did wrong was a huge drama, but Michelle could do whatever she wanted and everyone would laugh like it was the funniest thing in the world. I noticed, obviously, but I thought it was normal. That maybe that's how families work. I don't know. I didn't really have anything to compare it to. Things got weird when I was like 15. I was in high school, trying not to screw up and avoid my dad yelling at me. And one day I went out for a walk because I needed air. The house felt suffocating all the time. I went to the park that was like 10 minutes from the house, and that's when I saw something I shouldn't have seen. Brenda was there, sitting on a bench with this guy, Tyler, who I'd seen a couple times at neighborhood parties or something, and they were kissing. It wasn't like a casual kiss, it was like really intense, hands all over the place, and I just stood there frozen behind a tree thinking, what the hell is going on? I ran home before they could see me, and I didn't tell anyone because, honestly, I didn't know what to do with that information. A few weeks later, maybe a month, I don't remember exactly, I was home on a Saturday afternoon and Brenda thought I had gone out with friends, but I had come back early because they canceled on me or something. She was in her room talking on the phone, and the door was cracked open, and I heard my name, so obviously I went closer to listen because I thought she was talking about me. What I heard basically destroyed me. Brenda was talking to someone. I don't know who. And she said something like, I can't keep doing this. Edward doesn't know that. Michelle isn't his daughter, she's Tyler's, and if Andrew says anything about what he saw in the park, everything's going to go to hell. I literally stood frozen there in the hallway. My sister, Michelle, the girl who had grown up with me for the last 7 years, wasn't my half-sister. She was the daughter of the guy I saw Brenda kissing. I didn't know what to do with that information. I was a 5-year-old kid. Who was I going to tell? My dad? What if he didn't believe me? What if Brenda denied everything and made me look like a liar? So I kept quiet, kept the secret, and tried to go on with my normal life, even though normal didn't exist in that house anymore. But Brenda must have realized I knew something. Or maybe she was just paranoid. I don't know. Because like 2 weeks after that, what happened next changed my life forever. I came home from school on a Friday. It was like March or April. I'm not sure. It was still cold, and my dad was sitting in the living room with 2 police officers. Brenda was there too, crying, acting like she was devastated, and Michelle was in her room. My dad saw me come in, and his face, God, I'll never forget that face. It was just pure hatred. And he said, "The police want to talk to you about something very serious." Turns out Brenda had falsely accused me of inappropriately touching Michelle. She said Michelle had told her that I had come into her room several times and that I had done things, and I was standing there like, what? What are they talking about? I never, ever. It had never even crossed my mind to do something like that. Michelle was 7 years old. She was my sister, and the idea alone made me want to throw up. The police questioned me, asked me weird and uncomfortable questions, and I kept saying, no, that never happened, that Brenda was lying, but nobody believed me. They talked to Michelle, and she didn't say anything to confirm Brenda's story. In fact, she said I had always been good to her, but Brenda insisted that Michelle was traumatized and scared, and that's why she didn't want to talk. In the end, the police said they were going to investigate, but that there wasn't enough evidence to arrest me at that moment. But my dad had already made his decision. He looked at me and said, "You have 10 minutes to get your stuff out of my house." And I tried to explain, "Dad, I swear I didn't do anything. Brenda is lying," but he just yelled, "I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see you again. You're a disgrace." And Brenda was there behind him with that perfect victim face. I went up to my room, shoved what I could into a backpack. Clothes, a sweater, my toothbrush, I don't know. I grabbed the first things I saw, and my dad literally pushed me out of the house. He threw my backpack into the street and locked the door. I was 15 years old. I was a minor. I had nowhere to go. No money. Nothing. I stood there on the sidewalk for like an hour, waiting for I don't know what, maybe for my dad to change his mind, but he never opened the door. When it got dark, I started walking. I had no idea where to go. So I went to the park and sat on a bench until a cop told me I couldn't be there at night and kicked me out. The next few months were, without exaggeration, the worst of my life. I slept wherever I could, sometimes at bus stops, sometimes in a gas station bathroom until they found me and kicked me out. And eventually, I found an abandoned warehouse, like 2 miles from downtown, where other homeless people slept. I met Harold there, a guy like 50 years old who had lost everything after a divorce and an alcohol addiction, and he taught me how to survive, where to get free food, what places gave out clothes, how to stay warm in winter. I lost like 20 pounds in those months. I was dirty all the time, and I stopped going to school because, honestly, what was the point? Harold saved my life, literally. He told me he had a cousin, Philip, who managed a restaurant in the city like 2 hours from where I lived, and that maybe he could get me a job washing dishes if I was willing to move there. I said yes to anything that would get me out of that situation, so Harold gave me money for the bus. You don't know where he got it from, probably from asking for extra change, and I went to the city without looking back. Philip turned out to be cool. Gave me the job. Let me sleep in the restaurant's storage room for a while, until I saved up enough to rent a room in a shared house that was basically a dump. But it was a roof over my head. I worked at that restaurant for like a year, washing dishes, cleaning floors, doing whatever, and that's where I met Jessica. She worked as a waitress while studying at university, like one of those people who have their life together and know where they're going, completely the opposite of me. I don't know why she noticed me. Honestly, I was a kid with no education, no family, nothing. But she started talking to me during breaks, asking me things, and eventually convinced me to get my JED. She helped me study, lent me books, took me to the library, and after like 6 months, I took the exam and passed. Jessica changed my life. That's not an exaggeration. Her dad worked in real estate development, and when he found out my story, well, the version where my family kicked me out, I didn't tell him all the details. He gave me a chance at his company as a construction assistant or something like that. It was hard work, carrying things, cleaning sites, but it paid well and I learned a lot. Turns out, I was good at it. Like I understood how projects worked, how everything was organized, and I moved up little by little. By the time I was 23, I was managing my own small projects, and by the time I was 26, I was a real developer with my own client portfolio. Jessica and I got married when I was 27. She had already finished college and was working in marketing, and we had Connor when I was 28. Life was good. Like really good. We had a nice house in a quiet suburb. Connor was a happy and healthy kid, and I had managed to build something from nothing. But I always carried that secret, the secret that Michelle wasn't my dad's daughter, and the rage that Brenda had destroyed my life to protect her lie. I never tried to contact my dad, never looked for Michelle. I just moved forward and tried to forget that family had existed. Then, like 8 months ago, my dad found me on Facebook. He was 58 years old by then, and he sent me a message saying he wanted to reconnect, that 16 years had passed, that Michelle had been pressuring him to find me, and that maybe we could try to fix things. I don't know why I agreed. Maybe curiosity, maybe a part of me still wanted to have a family. I don't know, but I told him yes, that he could come visit me with Brenda and Michelle. Jessica thought it was a bad idea, told me these people had thrown me out when I needed them most, and that I didn't owe them anything. But I insisted I wanted to try. They came on a Saturday afternoon. My dad looked older, obviously. He had gray hair, more wrinkles, but he was still the same tough, serious guy. Brenda looked nervous, like she knew that I knew her secret and was waiting for me to say it at any moment. Michelle was 24, an adult, and seemed happy to see me. She hugged me and told me she had always wanted to get to know me better, that she vaguely remembered I had lived with them, but they had never really explained why I left. The visit was awkward, but okay. Like, we drank coffee, talked about superficial things, Connor played with his toys, and I thought, well, maybe this can work. But then my dad dropped the bomb. He told me Michelle was engaged, that she was getting married in a year, and that they were looking for a house for her because they wanted to give her a good start in her marriage. And then, without any shame, he asked me if I would be willing to give my house to Michelle because, according to him, I owed it to her. For all the pain I had caused the family when I was a teenager, I sat there thinking, is this guy seriously asking me for my house after throwing me out on the street at 15? Jessica almost exploded, like she stood up and told them to leave, but I stopped her and told her it was okay, that I'd handle it. I looked at my dad and told him, I'm not giving my house to Michelle, because Michelle isn't your daughter. She's Tyler's daughter. The guy Brenda had an affair with like 25 years ago. The silence that followed was one of those you can feel physically, like the air had become heavy. Michelle was looking at me like, what? Brenda went pale, and my dad said, what the fuck are you talking about? I told him everything. What I saw in the park, what I heard that afternoon in her room, and how Brenda had falsely accused me to destroy my credibility before I could say anything. Brenda tried to deny it, cried, said, I was crazy. But Michelle looked at her and asked, is it true? And Brenda couldn't keep up the lie. She broke down and admitted everything. My dad got up and grabbed Brenda by the arm, like really hard. He was shaking her and yelling, you lied to me for 25 years? You made me throw out my son over a fucking lie? Jessica called the police because things were getting violent. But before they arrived, my dad had already completely lost control. I'm not going to go into details, but he ended up putting her in the hospital with 3 fractured vertebrae. They arrested him right there, in front of my house, in front of Connor, who was crying in Jessica's arms, and Michelle was hysterical, screaming and crying, not knowing what to do. The following weeks were absolute chaos. My dad was sentenced to 3 years in prison for aggravated assault. Brenda ended up in rehab not just for her injuries, but because it turned out she had an addiction to pain medication that had started years before the incident. Michelle did a DNA test with my dad to confirm, and sure enough, she wasn't his biological daughter. Her fiancé ended the relationship because, according to him, he couldn't deal with all that family drama, which seemed like a cowardly move to me, but whatever, not my problem. Michelle tried to find Tyler, her biological father, and discovered he had died from an overdose like 2 years earlier. She couldn't even have that conversation or that closure. She sent me messages a couple times, asking me things about her childhood, about Brenda, like looking for answers I don't have, but I've kept my distance because, honestly, I don't know what to tell her. None of this is her fault. She was a victim as much as I was, but I also can't be her big brother or her emotional support after everything that happened. Last week, Michelle sent me a message saying she's moving out of state, that she needs to start over somewhere where nobody knows her story. And part of me feels sorry for her, but another part just can't feel anything. Jessica tells me, I should go to therapy, that carrying all this anger isn't healthy, and she's probably right, but I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. My dad has written me from prison, long letters asking for forgiveness, saying he should have listened to me when I was 15, that he ruined my life by believing Brenda, but I haven't answered them. I don't know if I ever will. Connor is 3 now, and sometimes I watch him play and think about everything I lost at his age, like my mom. And then at 15, I lost my dad and any sense of family I had. Jessica and I are expecting our second child, a girl, and I've promised myself I'm going to be the father I never had, that my kids are going to grow up knowing they're loved unconditionally, without favoritism, without lies. I guess that's the only good thing that came out of this whole mess, knowing exactly what kind of father I don't want to be. Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing. By revealing the secret, I destroyed what was left of my family, though. Honestly, it was already destroyed a long time ago. Michelle lost her identity. My dad is in prison. Brenda lost everything. And I'm still here with this weird feeling of emptiness and anger that won't go away. I don't feel satisfaction or justice or any of that stuff you're supposed to feel when the truth finally comes out. I just feel tired and the need to protect the family I built from the ruins of the family I lost. And that's enough for now, I guess.